What's up, guys? Michael Corsentino with my last lighting tutorial for 2019 for Shutter Magazine and BehindTheShutter.com. So first of all, I want to start out by wishing you all a very happy holiday season and happy new year. And thank you all so much for tuning in every month for arguably the best photographic tutorials and content on the web here at BehindTheShutter.com. So we're going to finish off the new year with a lighting recipe for something that I have heard referred to as hatchet light, which you're looking at here. It's a really cool, dramatic way to light. You can use it on any kind of background color that you desire. Here I'm using black just to heighten the drama, but you can use white, you can use a color, you can use whatever you like, whatever fits the kind of mood of the picture that you want to create. And I'm not sure where this gets its name, hatchet light, perhaps because of the way that the accent lights are angled from the back of the head toward the subject. So it's kind of a violent name, but nonetheless, it's pretty descriptive. So I want to give you two easy steps to create hatchet light, and that's basically really all it takes. It's all about balancing the amount of light that you're getting from the key light with the light that you're getting from the accent lights. Okay, in this lighting scenario, for this recipe, you have two lighting zones. So in my companion article, which if you guys aren't getting Shutter Magazine, I highly encourage you to subscribe. You can get it in digital, you can get it in print. And what I said in the article is that one of the reasons why I shy away from explicit lighting quote-unquote recipes is because they can be a little frustrating sometimes. And I know because I've been there, you see a diagram or you see something done online and it says that if you take these steps X, Y, and Z that you can replicate it exactly. And of course, oftentimes it doesn't turn out that way and it can end up being frustrating. So I want you to view these as this recipe specifically and the series of forthcoming recipes, which I'm going to be doing, as a guide. They will get you into the ballpark, okay? But the only thing that's really going to give you the facility that you need to create something right out of the gate every time is doing it repeatedly, 10 times, 20 times, 50 times. Then you will have it down and you'll be able to create it every time. But your mileage will always vary from something that you see in a tutorial because the power of your lights may vary, the distance between your lights and your subject may vary, the structure of the subject's face can be different, so the lights may respond to it differently. So you really have to kind of take all that into consideration and roll with the punches. But that said, what I'm going to show you here is really going to get you into the ballpark, and who knows, maybe you'll get lucky. Maybe right out of the gate you will have exactly these same results. But I just want you to go into it with reasonable and fair expectations and just have fun with it. Don't get frustrated. All right, so first things first, let's take a look at the behind the scenes image and what exactly is going on with the lighting setup. So as I said, you have two lighting zones to create this look, all right? You have your background lights or accent lights, and that's where that gets the hatchet name. So you can see here that they're angled in toward the back of the subject's head. And those are providing that side light that you're seeing on the left and right. For that, I'm using strip boxes, in this case 14 by 35 Elinchrom Rotolux softboxes with grids, egg crate grids on them. Okay, and what those do is they take what is already a narrow column of light and make it even narrower and more defined. They help really control where the light begins and ends so you don't have light spilling everywhere. And that's important with this look because you don't want it spilling onto the subject's nose. Sometimes you'll have to finesse the lights for their position to avoid that. In this case, it wasn't an issue. It worked with the setup that I had right out of the gate, so I was really happy about that. In this case, I've got a 30-degree grid, egg crate grid on one side and a 40 on the other, because that's kind of what I had in the studio. So it doesn't really make that much of a difference. Ideally, you would want it to match if you have that, but that 10-degree difference didn't really make much of an impact on the light. Okay, and then for our key light zone, I've got a Mola Demi Beauty Dish. I believe it's the one. It's the version with silver on the inside, so it might not be called the Demi, but it is the 22-inch Mola Beauty Dish with silver. And I used silver for this because I wanted to heighten the contrast. Okay, so whenever you want to really have a lot of contrast, you will use silver. Okay, that's going to give you a more specular, contrasty look. It's going to also increase the amount of output that you're going to get from the light because obviously silver reflects more than a white interior modifier. All right, underneath that, to reflect light back up and open up the light under the chin and in the eye sockets, I also have a reflector. You can see it here on screen, and that is called a triflector. It's made by Lastolite. It's got 3 panels that you can articulate each of the side arms individually, so you can really control what's happening with the light that's being reflected back from the key light up toward the subject. And I also have that as silver because you can do either white panels or silver panels. They're reversible. You can see the white on the back side here. So that's what I'm using there. So that is my second light zone, or my first light zone, if you will. The first typically is the key light. However, this is a really unique scenario because in this instance, the majority of the light that you're getting is being contributed from the accent lights, okay, from the 2 lights behind the subject. And only a very small amount of light is being contributed from the key light, but it is really essential. It makes all the difference. And I'm going to show that to you, okay, how even just a subtle, tiny little kiss of light can make a world of difference, okay. And it's also going to give us things like catch lights and really kind of key elements that are going to round out the portrait. All right, so let me see if I'm forgetting anything. I don't think that I am. You can see the black background. Like I said, you can use white. You can use a color if you want. Again, whatever is going to fit the content that you're working with or you're trying to create. Okay, so let's move on to our kind of step-by-step images. So what you're seeing here on the left is accent lights only, as I've called out there in the image. And you can see here that it is okay. We've sort of start to get the building blocks of the image. And you can see what we've dialed in. I've metered this at f11 to match my f-stop. Okay, so you'll want to do that. Both lights are metered at f11. But you can see here we have no catch lights, and we have a very kind of flat, lifeless image from the front, and that is because we are only using the accent lights. There is zero illumination from the front on this left image. Now, on the right side, we've got what ended up being the final lighting. Okay, so we've got the side lights, and then we have the accent light, the key light providing the fill. Okay, so typically it's an accent light that provides fill. In this case, it's the reverse. All right, so you can see here that key light now has just filled in a very little amount of light, but enough to really open up the eyes, give us that catch light, open up the chest and the neck a little bit as well. And it's a very subtle difference, but it makes a big impact on the overall look of the image and the lighting. Okay, so let's dig in a little further. Okay, so now on this slide, you can see the key light fill only, all right, at something that was had a little more power. Okay, because normally you would think, okay, well, I'm going to match my my key light to f11 also, because everything follows the key light. But in this instance, you can see here that by doing that, with the accent lights and the fill from the key being equal, it washes out the whole effect, right? So this is very counterintuitive. Again, the key light, even though it's the key light, functions more like an accent light. Okay, so now you can see where I ended up. Okay, so here you've got key light fill only on the left, and you can see here there's barely any light. And then you can see on the left the result, which ended up being our final lighting. And then, of course, I applied a color grade and in Capture One Pro and that kind of thing to give it kind of a cool finishing touch. All right, so there's our finishing light. So basically, the 2 steps are dialing in your hatchet lights, your accent lights, left and right, getting them to the same f-stop. I guess you could do different amounts of power if you want. I always do them the same, so they're equal amounts of light coming from both with the grids on them, and that's going to give me the side lights. You'll want to finesse them so that you don't have any light on the nose. That's your first step. And then the second step is dialing in your key light. And I like to work with, one light at a time, one zone at a time. So dial in my key lights, dial in my accent lights, turn them off, dial in my key light, get the light set for that, see that I'm where I want to be, and then make an exposure with all the lights on together. All right, so That's again, and that's how we ended up to this final look. And I think it looks really cool. All right. And so I also want to talk to you about the finished image is a cropped image. So I wanted you to see the full frame image. I like to shoot a little bit looser than I'm probably going to end up because it gives you flexibility, obviously, as you can see here. Perhaps I would have wanted to go with the one on the left, but had I shot it tight like the crop, I wouldn't be able to. So I always like to shoot a little bit looser. Also, if you're shooting editorial, if you're shooting for magazines, it gives your editor the flexibility to do what they want, and maybe they want to add text on top of it. You never know how it's going to work in a layout, so it's always good to have a little bit of flexibility. Right. Here are a couple alternates to take a look at. However, I still think that the opening image that we looked at is the strongest one, and this was my final and my favorite. So there you have it, guys. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. Get out there and try all this stuff. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you in 2020 here at BehindTheShutter.com.